Hello and welcome to the Powerful Personal Brand Podcast. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing the do's and don'ts of pitching to the press because we want you to do it right. I am your host, Claire Bahn, and on today's episode, I am so excited to welcome back a guest that I had on a few episodes ago, Kristen Marquette. And Kristen has been a publicist and a business owner for approximately 2 decades. As the owner and creative director of Marquette Media, Kristen oversees the daily operations of the business while executing client campaigns. Throughout her career as a publicist, Kristen has developed partnerships with leading brands and entrepreneurs. Kristen's academic background includes advanced studies in data science, business, and public relations. Kristen is also a member of the Young Entrepreneur Council, the Fast Company Executive Board, and the Rolling Stone Council Culture Council. Kristen, thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. And I was very excited when you invited me back.
Yeah, well, thank you. We had such a good conversation and I felt like we really just touched on the surface of how to help people with how to pitch, right? Because there's a lot of people that are going to do it by themselves and they need to DIY it, right? They're not going to be able to hire an expert like yourself. So I want to make sure that they have tips. So, because we kind of joked about it, but it is true, that they're, in the marketing space, in the PR space, that there are a lot of people that are doing it wrong. They give it a bad name. And I just want to make sure that we kind of arm people with this, how to do it right so that they aren't kind of making it more difficult. So let's just go back. Like, what are the things that you're seeing people do wrong when they pitch to the press?
My goodness, so many. But I would say the 5 most common things are mass pitching, meaning you send one pitch out to 1,000 different media. That is just a no-no. I had to tell a potential client yesterday, I said, we don't mass pitch, do everything one-to-one. I said, if you're looking to blanket pitch and get quantity over quality, we're not the right firm for you. The second thing would be spell the journalist's name correctly. I can't tell you how many times people spell my name. I get pitches with E-N. Name is not E-N, it's I-N. Take 2 seconds. Look to see how the media professional spells their name. Number 3, make sure that your subject line is 8 words or fewer. I generally strive for 5 or fewer, but you want all the copy or the lead to be able to fit within that viewable or visible subject line. So I think 5 to 8 is generally a good number to strive for. Number 4 would be keep your pitch to fewer than 250 words, and make it focused on how you are going to help the journalist or television producer do their job. Self-promotion is an absolute no. Nobody really cares what how wonderful and revolutionary and great you are. It's really, at the end of the day, it's providing value and making the media professional's life easier. And I would say the 5th thing would be get rid of the filler words. Get rid of, like I just said, word revolutionary, pretty much any qualifier, and just keep your pitch very concise, targeted, and ensure that it matches the tone and the style of the publication or podcast that you're pitching. Read a couple of articles, listen to a couple of episodes, watch a couple of, TV segments if you're going to be pitching for TV, and make sure that everything aligns. And you're going to maximize your chances of landing media coverage, or at least getting that journalist to open your email and hopefully facilitate conversation. At least start a conversation.
I knew a lot of these things, but one of the biggest things is that you really learn a lot of this by when you're on the other side, when you're getting those pitches yourself. So I obviously get pitches for this podcast, and I got one today. And there's a particular agency, won't name names, but they constantly go out and they are pitching to podcasts, if that's supposedly their specialty, but it's so, hey, I've got this great entrepreneur. They'd be perfect for your show. Insert name here, blah. And you know that they're kind of blanketing things out and things like that. And I just think it's such it's really a shame because the person that hired them doesn't know that that's how they're being represented either. And it's just really is a shame because it's almost like I see this person send me something and I'm like, oh God, I kind of open it just to say, did they finally learn? Nope, they haven't. But they pretty much do all of those things wrong. It's so much about who this person is and why they're great. And a lot of times, like, you're just kind of going, well, this is a person that's kind of really solidly direct competition to me. And you haven't even told me why they would be great for the show and why they're not competition. Like, it's just kind of like, let's just spell it out, like, I think that that's kind of one of the things. I mean, if sometimes I've been pitched to someone that's maybe seen it as a competitor, we say, okay, well, this is my niche and this is how I can add something to you. Let's just, people are stupid. Like, don't pretend that they're just going to, well, this person says it's so it must be so. We should have them on.
Right.
Come on. Like, these are journalists.
And, they're experienced and, they can see right through, the good and the bad. And, at the end of the day, you really want to try and make their lives easier. And you want, as an extension of that, you want to be able to build a long-term relationship with these people and have or become the go-to expert for a specific area. And that's generally what I try and do with my clients. Some of our clients have been with us, 10 years. And over the 10 years, this person in the mental health space or this person in the business coaching space, we've spent 10 years building their brands. And whenever USA Today, Allure, even something like the Financial Times needs commentary, they're going to come to one of my clients to get it instead of trying to, find other sources. And that's ultimately, that's the dream. That's what you want to do, right? It does take time. It does take patience. I understand the media do change jobs quite often, right? Beats change, people leave, people retire, new ones coming in. But at the end of the day, if you had a good relationship with one person in a specific beat, it's going to be a lot easier to build a relationship with their successor. Or
if they move to another place, you can stay with them.
Absolutely. So that's what it comes down to. I think one of the things,
funny enough, I was, when you look at job applications, sometimes when we're out there looking, for associates to hire, I put out the question, why would you be a good fit? And you'd be amazed by the response that people say. Like, they're just kind of like, because I'm great. You're just kind of like, okay, well, delete. Great. Because you failed. You failed the test. The test was pitch how you are special, what you're going to bring. And so I think probably the press is getting inundated with these essentially like, I am great kind of pitches instead of actually saying, hey, you know what? I know this is what you do. I saw your article last week that did this, this, and this. I really think if you need another expert to talk on the subject, this is your person. And and then you could maybe say, hey, this is what they've done and this is why, and that kind of thing. But it's like, I kind of like after that first initial thing, because if you don't have that first initial part that hooks them, they're not even going to read the rest of the thing that talks about why this expert is actually an expert.
And why, the media should heavily consider, you or your client over, the 500 other pitches that they've received. So I absolutely agree with you. It's just kind of, it's sad, but, hopefully somebody will get, one person will get something out of this conversation.
I think that our listeners and watchers will. Hopefully they're taking notes on this, because this is really good information, really for anything. If you're ever pitching anything, and a job is kind of a pitch. Like, if you're pitching anything, make it about the other person, not about you.
Right. It's coming up with an elevator pitch, right? And it needs to be 30 seconds or fewer.
If the elevator pitch focuses on you, then it's a bad elevator pitch. Start again.
Absolutely. And structuring such a pitch, it's not rocket science. We're not curing cancer here.
Yeah. And I agree with getting rid of those filler words too, because sometimes I look at people's websites, even sales websites or something like that, and there's so many filler words. I call it filler fruit, like the green melon, and it's like filler fruit. No one wants that fruit. So get rid of it. My team, we joke about the filler fruit. Get rid of the filler fruit. It happened with a particular person that I was reading the last couple of days. I was looking at their website and I'm like, your website literally tells me nothing. It's a whole bunch of words and it kind of sounds, but it kind of doesn't really sound good because I'm kind of going, I really have no idea what you do as a business because of all of these words that don't say anything.
It's like a lot of professional services websites. I know that they're very limited with the way that they can, the narratives that they can tell, but, we're more in kind of a creative space. So you can tell your story however you want, without needing to, use revolutionary and unique and premier and leading and superior and all this other crap that means absolutely nothing.
It doesn't. But if someone literally can look at your pitch or look at your website and they don't know what you do, that doesn't make sense because there's so many filler words and you're so unique. You're so uniquely unique that I don't need to use you.
Right. Exactly.
You're so revolutionarily unique that I'm going to go to another provider or another person for my story.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can't tell you, some of the content, the pitches that, we get. It's,
I think that a lot of times what's actually an interesting thing that people don't really look constructively at their own work. So if you're DIYing the stuff, if you can have your friend, your spouse, your roommate, your whatever, look it over objectively and say, if this was my job to hire you, to get to, not hire you, but to take your pitch and to have you on my show or to, have you quoted in an article, is this going to do the job?
Right, exactly. Is it going to be substantive enough to make, to make somebody want to take action? And, 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. And I do understand that it's very difficult to look at content, whether it's a pitch or website or proposal, through an objective lens because you're the one that's working on it. So in that case, the best thing to do is if you don't have somebody to bounce ideas off of or somebody to review it for you, then step away from it. Take, a day, a week, and then come back and look at it with fresh eyes. I mean, this is what we were taught to do in school, from like 5th grade English.
Right. But not if you're doing it at the very last minute, right? If you're so close to the deadline, you don't do that. So you have to not work so close to a deadline that you don't have that time to step away.
Right. The procrastination piece,
Yeah. If you're a procrastinator, you need to work on that because, that is really funny. We've given people a lot of the do's and some horror stories and things like that. What can actually make a pitch stand out? Is there like one thing or what's like the biggest thing that can make a pitch stand out?
I find the inverted pyramid to be very archaic. I think it's good when you're sending a release over the wire, which I generally don't do because the results are, you don't get backlinks.
It's a very old school way of doing things. Yeah,
exactly. It's like what you would do in like 2010.
Or earlier.
Right. Exactly. Pre-internet, right? And social media. So I would say, I like to follow more of a narrative structure. I follow more of a story structure, and every single pitch I send out has bullet points. If it's for a product or a company, they're benefit based and really describe what the unique selling proposition is or whatever it is I'm trying to pitch. And if it's an interview or a feature, then the bullet points are going to be talking points. And you want to, like I said, you want to keep your pitch to 250 words or fewer, a couple bullet points, make it a narrative, learn the art of storytelling, right? So that your pitch isn't boring, and then close with a boilerplate or your media bio, which should be 100 words or fewer, and that's it. And make sure every single one that you send out is customized. Don't send out one pitch to 10 different people because you're just not going to get results.
Yeah, those are really good tips. So, well, let's kind of, so we talked about like the tips, the don'ts of pitching. Let's talk about like the do's. So let's give like a solid list of the do's. What are your favorite do's?
Brevity and clarity are really two of any PR person's job, right? You want to have a very succinct, concise subject line. Like I said, 8 words or fewer. I generally strive for 5. Customize every single pitch. Make sure you spell the person's name right. And also include an article topic that you can talk about. I have never received a pitch in my life, ever, Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, any of the places I write for, that said, okay, well, you know what, my client, or I'm an expert on A, and I could comment on B, C, and D for article topic Z. Include some ideas, especially if you don't have an editorial calendar, because a lot of, especially with freelancers, you're not going to have access to an editorial calendar. So you're going to want to give the journalist or the television producer an idea, for a story that they can write and include your commentary, or maybe they can focus the whole thing around you. You don't know, but yeah, definitely include some article ideas.
It blows my mind that people wouldn't do that. We always like have that like on the media kit. Here are the topics. Here are their things. Here are their kind of like key focus. And you have the ones that are just super bland, like publicity, public relations, same thing. But like just these broad topics instead of how this, that, and the other does this. How 2023 is what like very specific, targeted things. And yeah, it blows. But I think that if I go back to that pitch that somebody gave to me for my podcast, I'm sure that they didn't have any topics, or if they did, they were very broad and they weren't related to me. And I think that's, if they do have topics, they're like, here are my topics, not how it relates to you and how it could actually be a good fit for your show, your art, your, what you actually write about.
Correct.
Which again goes back to your point of you have to tailor it. And if it's not a good fit, then don't send the email. Don't send the pitch.
Yeah.
It's not a good fit.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And my other tip is never call a producer or a journalist unless you know them, because
really, okay, that's another old school tactic.
Well, there was no such thing as email. It was like fax and telephone, right? Back in the day. Social media didn't exist, email didn't exist, but yeah, absolutely don't call producer or media professional unless you know them or you've had a conversation, you've had some form of communication with them, because they're not going to know who you are.
I know that I hate phone calls. I'm like one of the, I hate when the phone rings. I'm like, I don't want to answer it. Don't talk to me.
Must be a generational thing.
I don't know. I'm just like, I really just don't. I hate the phone.
Or I'm like, send me an email, and then I'll get around to it. Yeah.
So I want to, like, good or bad, but I want to leave, we're kind of end today's show with tell us your worst horror story. Whether it was what was kind of something that you happened that you were just like shocked that this, either a pitch that you received or what happened. Do you have one of those?
Oh my
Okay.
gosh,
One, do you have one? I mean, if you have two, we can go
Yeah,
two.
no, I have many. But I actually one time I don't even know what publication it was, but I got a pitch from a PR firm here in New York, for, you're never going to believe what it was. It was for a pharmaceutical. I'm like, have you ever read any of my columns? Like, I only cover this, and this. Very specific. But it was for ED medication pharmaceutical. I mean, and this, I don't know if I got mixed into the media list, but I was like horrified when I got it. I said, I cover female entrepreneurs. Like, I don't cover like sexual dysfunction.
ED. Yeah. Sorry, man.
So weird. But yeah, that was priceless. I mean, we laughed about that for weeks and weeks because somebody didn't do their homework. And it couldn't have been further from, anything I write about. So, I mean,
that damages, it could, if you talk to people that are maybe cover that beat, you'd be like, hey, if you get this pitch, throw it out because I got it too. Mm-hmm. You don't want to have the client get bad reputation, your agency get a bad reputation. Just bad stuff.
Yeah. I mean, among many other things, when I lectured at NYU, my students would say some of the some of the more notable PR firms, they were just pitching machines, pitching mills, and they would use Cision Point and send out one pitch to 5,000 different media. And, at that point, it was really a numbers game. And, that's maybe certain clients, like the person that I spoke to yesterday, would be on board with that. But that's just not the way that I do things. I mean, it's just like, ugh.
All right. Well, I think that we really just tackled the do's and don'ts in this episode of what to do for pitching to the press. And hopefully you took your notes. If you didn't, go back, rewatch, take notes. There were lots of, I think there were 5 of both. So take those notes, practice. Yeah. Step away, look at it, be objective. So many little nuggets. And I just really thank you so much, Kristen, for doing this and coming back on to really just help people. So, if there's something we missed, let us know. If you have a tip that we missed, let us know in the comments, please, because you know what? Maybe there's something that both of us could learn, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Always open.
Of course.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, it's so great. And thank you for listening and watching. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.